Greater Oceania, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand. Video 3 by Group 3. The official language of Indonesia is Bahasa Indonesia, which is a variant of Malay. There are around 210 million people who speak this language. The top ethnic groups in Indonesia are Havanese and Sudanese and Malay, while their religion is mostly Muslim and then a small percent of Protestant and Roman Catholic. The cultural environment in Australia is the main language of English at 76.8%, and then a small percentage of Mandarin, Italian, Arabic, and Greek. The ethnic groups in Australia are mainly English and Australian, then followed by a small percent of Irish, Scottish, and Italian, while the religion is mostly Protestant, and then Roman Catholic and other Christian religions, followed by Muslim and Buddhist. Languages spoken in New Zealand is English at 89.8%, followed by Maori at 3.5%, and then Samoan at 2%. And their main religion is Christian at 44.3%, and then followed by small percents of Hindu and Buddhist. The Hofstede Insights is a big part of this report on video 3, where you can see here the power distance, the individualism, the masculinity, the uncertain avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. And you can see the variation between Australia, Indonesia, and New Zealand. Hofstede's power distance is the extent to which the less powerful members of institutions and organizations within a country expect and accept that power is distributed unequally. Hierarchy plays an important part in Indonesian culture. Respect is shown to those with status, power, position, and age, and although superiors make decisions, they do try to promote group discussion. Indonesia has a high power distance dimension of 78. This means that the Indonesians are dependent on hierarchy. There are unequal rights between power holders and non-power holders. Superiors are inaccessible, leaders are directive, and management controls and delegates. Indonesian workers expect to be told what to do and when to do it. Australia and New Zealand both have lower scores, whereas Australia is 36 and New Zealand is 22. That shows that a hierarchy is established for convenience, but superiors are readily available and rely on individuals or groups for their expertise. Information is expected to be shared, and frequently all parties expect to be consulted. Individualism is the dimension that looks at the degree of interdependence a society maintains among its members. It aims to see whether people's self-image is defined in the terms of I or we. Indonesia has a low individualism score because that means that they are a collective society. Individuals are expected to conform to the ideas of society and in the groups that they belong to. Individuals are expected to conform to the ideals the society has. Australia is a very individualistic culture with a score of 90. New Zealand's score is 79 on this dimension, which is also an individualistic culture. This translates into a loosely knit society in which the expectation is that people look after themselves and their immediate families. In the business world, employees are expected to be self-reliant and dependent, display initiative. Also, within the exchange-based world of work, hiring and promotion decisions are based on merit or evidence of what one knows he can or can't do. Masculinity is the fundamental issue of what motivates people, wanting to be best, masculine, or liking what you do, feminine. In Indonesia, status and visible symbols of success are important, but it is not always material gain that brings motivation. Often it's the position that a person holds in which is more important to them because of an Indonesian concept called jenggisi, loosely translated to be outward appearances. It is important that the jenggisi be strongly maintained, thereby projecting a different outward appearance aimed at impressing and creating the aura of status. Australia scores a 61 and New Zealand scores a 58. Our dimension is considered a masculine society. Behavior is based on the shared values that people should strive to be the best they can be and that the winner takes all. Australians are proud of their success and achievements in life, and it offers a bias for hiring and promoting decisions in the workplace. Conflicts are resolved at the individual level, and the goal is to win. The uncertainty avoidance is the extent to which the members of a culture feel threatened by ambiguous or unknown situations and have created beliefs and institutions that try to avoid these. Indonesia has a lower preference for avoiding uncertainty at 48. Indonesians do not like to express anger or show negative emotions externally. Workplace harmony is very important because whether a conflict occurs in the workplace, direct communication of the problem puts Indonesians in an uncomfortable position. This is why a third party immediately is used to settle disputes. So different viewpoints can be exchanged without the loss of face by a specific individual. New Zealand and Australia both are relaxed and do not show emotion. They sit right on the middle of not willing to take risk or to show a willingness to try new and different ideas. The long-term orientation dimension looks at whether societies are normative and prefer to focus on tradition, or if they are pragmatic in their approach to look to adapt to new and changing ways. Indonesia adopts a more pragmatic view. They adapt their traditions and have a tendency to save and invest and aim to preserve their future. Australians and New Zealanders have a more normative culture. They have a strong concern with establishing the absolute truth. They stick to their traditions and do not tend to save for the future and desire quick results. Indulgence is the dimension that aims to look at the extent to which people try to control their desires and impulses. Indonesia has a low score, which means that it is a country that shows restraint. They are a cynical and pessimistic society that does not put much emphasis on leisure time. They control their desires for gratification and hold the belief that indulging themselves is wrong. Australia and New Zealand have very similar scores and are both labeled as indulgent countries. These countries realize their desires and indulge in their impulses. They have a positive attitude and are optimistic. They place a higher degree of importance on leisure time and spend their money as they wish. Business etiquette in Indonesia is how they believe in the concept of face. Face is another word for dignity or reputation. They strive to maintain group harmony and never want to cause shame. Indonesians are very careful about what they say and how they interact with one another. The political environment in Indonesia is that the country is decentralized power and gave it back to the regions. They hold elections every 5 years, and the president is the head of state and government. The parliament makes all the laws. Indonesians had a freedom score of about 64 out of 100, which makes it partly a free country. Corruption, nepotism, and collusion are still prevalent throughout the country, and there's an enforcement of property rights is insufficient and uneven, so property is difficult to register. The political environment in Australia, they have a federal parliamentary constitutional monarchy with Elizabeth II as an apex as the Queen of Australia, where they also have a Governor General and then a Prime Minister. The government type in Australia is parliamentary democracy, federal parliament, under a constitutional monarchy. They have administrative divisions, so 6 states and 2 territories, and their independence date is January 1st of 1901. They have national holidays such as Australia Day, which is the 26th of January, and Anzac Day, which commemorates the anniversary of the landing of troops of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps during World War I at Gallipoli, Turkey. The New Zealand political and legal environment is that the stability provides a safe environment for investors and businesses. It consistently ranks highly internationally for its government transparency and their democratic institutions in low level. New Zealand is the second easiest country in the world to do business with, and according to the World Bank, Forbes rated them 3rd in the best country for business in December of 2014. And the World Justice Project has ranked them 6th out of 102 countries, ahead of Australia, Canada, and the UK for the quality of their legal system. Also, manufacturers and traders are strongly advised to have their patents and inventions and register them with New Zealand. And there are signatory or intellectual property treaties and conventions, including the Paris Convention, the Patent Corporation Treaty, and the TRIPS Agreement.